Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Donna, and I'm with Genesis Fertility. At Genesis, we understand that affording fertility treatment is a huge concern, and that can often paralyze a patient from moving forward with the care they need. So, we're going to review the different financing options to help you find the solution that works best for you. Joining us is Dana Joris, the billing supervisor at Genesis. For over 8 years, she's been helping Genesis patients find the financing option that best fits their needs. Also joining us is Madeline Irvin, the clinic success manager at Future Family, one of our financing partners. Her job is to work closely with the Genesis team, making sure you have a seamless experience as you go through your financing journey. So without further delay, I'll turn the controls over to Madeline and Dana.
Thanks, Donna. So I'm going to go a little bit over just our agenda for today, so you guys know what we're going to talk about. We do know and understand that trying to figure out the best way to pay for fertility treatment can just be a very daunting and stressful process. So essentially, we're here today to try and alleviate a little bit of that, those feelings that you might be having. So we're going to be giving you kind of the 411 of our amazing partners at Genesis Fertility. And so I believe Donna's going to be going over that program with us. And then we have Dana here, who's going to help break down the cost of the treatments for you. So we just want you to feel as prepared as possible when you're starting your journey with Genesis. We're going to look into the different ways to pay for treatment. So we want to make sure that you have all those resources available to you just to make the right decision that's going to be best for you and your family. And then we're going to dive into the benefits of using Future Family, and how, taking out a fertility loan can be a really great option for you to pay for treatment. And then we're going to wrap it up with Q&A. So Donna's going to help us with those questions and see if we can answer everything that you guys bring to us today. So I think we will start off with Donna and going over Genesis Fertility.
Okay. So Genesis is the division of reproductive endocrinology and infertility at Maimonides Medical Center in Brooklyn, New York. We've been building families for over 35 years. We're open 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's a full service fertility clinic. They cover everything to do with fertility. And the treatment plans range from simple medical therapy to surgery to advanced technologies, including IVF, IUI, ICSI, genetic testing, even oncofertility for patients wishing to preserve their fertility during a cancer diagnosis. So there is no one size fits all cookie cutter treatment plan. Each person is individualized, and the treatment is always designed to meet what the patient needs. Anybody who's been to our practice, they've seen the walls. We have these beautiful notes, thank you notes, cards, pictures that decorate our hall are really testimony to the quality of the Genesis program. Dana, do you want to take this one?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Excuse me, the cost for fertility treatment ranges and it varies depending on the services that you'll require, and that's being discussed through your treatment plan, which is reviewed by your physician. But at Genesis, like Donna mentioned, we have various options to care for your fertility needs. They can range anywhere from IUIs all the way up through surrogacy, as is noted on the slide. So for example, IUIs does have a range of $525 up to $2,550. And that pricing would vary depending on your insurance. The insurance would determine if any of these services are covered, such as monitoring or the insemination itself. Some policies will cover monitoring, which would require just the payment out of pocket for the insemination itself. And that would be the $525 quote. That can go upwards again to $2,550, which would require medication or injectable medication as well as oral medication sometimes. So that would be arranged depending on, again, insurance benefits and as well as medication, if medication is going to be needed. Egg freezing would start at 7,000, and that is a service that tends to not be covered by insurances. Some are starting to offer more benefits towards egg freezing, more that, the more infertility industry and the services progress, then egg freezing is starting to become more and more of a coverage service. But we do still find that a lot of insurance policies are not on board with that just yet, not unless it is something that is mandatory or medically necessary for the egg freezing, such as if if you are doing radiation therapy for a cancer diagnosis, then the insurance companies will deem that to be medically necessary. However, if it is an elective service that you're looking to come in just to preserve your fertility, those type of policies tend to not be covered by the insurance. And at Genesis, we charge a fee of $7,000 for that service to freeze your eggs. IVF, as is noted there, does range from $10,575 upwards towards $16,850. And again, that wide range would also depend on the service and the treatment plan that's being discussed with your doctor. It depends also on medication as well. So for something that's just a basic standard IVF service, it would cost the $10,575. $16,850 would be a range involving ICSI, which is a sperm injection procedure to assist with fertilizing the eggs, as well as PGT, which is genetic testing on the embryos, which requires multiple fees, additional fees, I should say, but that would be the large range up to the $16,850 for IVF, ICSI, and genetic testing on embryos. Again, it would also depend on if your insurance covers monitoring, which is the blood and ultrasound portion of your treatment. In regards to frozen embryo transfers, that again is from $3,300 upwards towards $4,150, again, depending on insurance coverage and if monitoring, blood work, and ultrasound visits are covered or not. PGT, as I mentioned, is for genetic testing on embryos. So it's pre-implantation testing on the embryos to check for any abnormalities and or gender. That cost is $1,650. And that's just for the biopsy portion. You would also be required to make a payment to the outside genetic laboratory that will request their fee, depending on the lab, and they will go over those expenses with you. But they can range anywhere about $200, $200 to $300, depending on the lab, per embryo to be tested. So there's two parts to the PGT process. Medication does range again from $2,000 to $8,000. That range is pretty wide as well, depending on the type of medication you'll be taking, the dosage, and the quantity that you'll need to get through your cycle in the case. Donor eggs would range from $9,000 to $31,000. That range is also pretty wide depending on the type of treatment and the option you're choosing. That varies depending on frozen donor eggs, or if they're going to be fresh donor eggs, working with a live donor that's coming in to do the process along with you. Versus using frozen donor eggs that we've already retrieved from the donor and then that you can select with our donor coordinator to go through more of a quicker process, if you like. There's much more expenses involved with that, so we would go over that thoroughly with you when you come into the practice, and you'll meet with one of our billing staff members to go over those expenses. And there's also contracts involved to be signed for any kind of donor egg option. And lastly would be surrogacy. So we do offer gestational carriers and surrogacy in our practice. That cycle is $7,500, and that would also require genetics testing with the carrier, FDA screening, and medications that the carrier would also require. So a lot of those expenses are out of pocket. Many insurance companies do not cover surrogacy, unfortunately. So they tend to be self-paying out-of-pocket expenses on the intended parent. But again, we will meet and we will discuss that in further detail with you and go over your treatment plan thoroughly that the doctor provides to us. And if you have any questions, like Donna mentioned, you can certainly post them before the end of this webinar. I will hand it back over to Madeline for more information from Future Family.
Awesome. Thank you, Dana.
Yes.
So, everything that Dana went through can feel a little overwhelming, and we completely understand that. Seeing these numbers up on the screen are not sometimes an easy pill to swallow. And we completely understand what you might be going through and what you might be thinking. And so that's why Future Family and Genesis want you to know that you do have options available to you. So I want to kind of touch base on a few of the common ways that we do see patients paying for treatment so that you guys can kind of get a good idea of what are your options? Is it taking out a fertility loan or is it something else? We obviously would love for you to take out a loan with us, but we want to make sure you're educated on the other options too, because everyone's different. Everyone's family has something different that's going to work for them. So it's important that we kind of educate you on what those options are. Here are 6 of the most popular ways, aside from loans that we'll talk about here in a minute, but one of them being savings. So this is having cash on hand. It's being able, to pay cash is great if you have it on hand, but sometimes people want that nest egg in their savings account. You have cash for any rainy day or emergencies. It's good to still have that in your savings because that's what it's there for. A lot of people like to take that cash and throw it into their investments and utilize that time value of money so that your money is growing in investments. You're building wealth as you're going through this treatment process. And the great thing about working with Future Family too is that if you don't want to finance the entire portion of your loan, you can use some of your savings that you do have allocated for your fertility treatment, and then you can finance another portion of that treatment plan as well. So it's not you have to choose one of these options to pay for your entire treatment. You can break it up and utilize a few of them in different ways in order to pay. So a second one being retirement. So things that sometimes people don't realize about borrowing money from their retirement account is that's what it is. It's borrowing. So you do have to pay yourself back with tax, interest. It's kind of dissolving, again, that nest egg that you have saved for your future and for your retirement. So it is available, but it's not always the best option for you. We don't necessarily want you to have to reach into that and pay those repercussions that come along with those retirement accounts. Thirdly, we have HELOC, so a home equity line of credit. If you're a homeowner, this is also a good option for you, a good loan option. They do tend to have sometimes pretty good low interest rates. But the thing to remember about HELOCs is that they can be pretty time intrusive. So this is where it's going to be really important for you to have a good relationship with your fertility clinic. And make sure that you are very transparent with timelines so that you can be prepared to have those funds available to you and you have enough time to withdraw that. So that one's going to be important to start on an earlier time frame. Fertility grants. So we highly recommend going to fertilityiq.com or resolve.org. There are a lot of fertility grants out there to take a look at. Dana and the team might, be a little bit better exposed to these than I am to help educate you on these and ones that you could check out. The thing to be aware of with fertility grants is they are competitive. They do have timelines. It's a great way to share your story and a way to get some extra funds as you go through your journey. But do keep in mind that they may not cover the entire portion of your journey. They can, provide bits and pieces. Which as, working with Future Family and taking out a loan, we can cover the entire cost of treatment depending on what you're approved for. So just some things to consider there. Next, we have a side hustle listed here. This isn't something we necessarily recommend, but we know people have looked into side jobs that do have really great fertility benefits. I know it's becoming more and more popular now to have those fertility benefits available, even sometimes for part-time jobs. So we know that this is already a stressful process for you, and taking on another job on the side just to get fertility benefits may not be the best option, but it is something out there available to you. And then lastly, we have credit cards. So we know that a huge portion of people do use credit cards to pay for fertility treatments. Things to consider here. Credit card interest rates are very high, upwards of like 25% right now. That is huge. The thing too about credit cards is that most, don't realize is the more you spend of your credit and you hold a high balance on your credit card, the more your interest rate can increase. Your payments are increasing. It can actually lower your credit score when you do this because it uses a lot of your credit utilization. The recommendation is to not go over 30% of your credit utilization, the funds that you do have available to you on your credit card. If you do, you might see your credit card drop, or your credit card, I'm sorry, not your credit card, your FICO score drop when that happens. It also doesn't really allow for emergencies or situations where you might be looking into another cycle. So taking out more credit cards can end up, sometimes doing more harm than good for you. So even if you're thinking of those credit cards that have, 0% promotional periods or very low interest promotional periods, that's great. But when those periods are over, those credit card companies are going to charge you a huge interest amount. So if you're not making those payments on time, it can really, really hurt you and hurt your credit health. So just please be aware of those things when you're thinking about credit cards. So after looking through all of those, Future Family has partnered with Genesis Fertility to give you another option than what I kind of just explained there. So this is taking out fertility loans. So just like Genesis Fertility, we want to take time to get to know you. We want to know where you're at in your process. Are you in the discovery phase? Are you starting in 3 months? What does your treatment plan look like? We do have people on staff who get on the phone. They want to talk to you about your treatment plan. They want to know what you need, how you want to fund your fertility treatment, and help set you up with a loan that's going to be able to cover that all in one lump sum. So with loans at Future Family, you're able to take out funds up to $50,000, depending on how much you're approved for. That approval is going to depend on 3 things. It depends on your credit score. It depends on your debt to income ratio. And it's going to depend on your income. So we don't have we don't just throw a dart at the board and say, hey, this is what, interest rate we're going to give you. It's a calculation. It's all kind of combined together. So that's why putting in an application is going to be really useful for all of you to just see what you might be approved for and talk to one of our specialists. They will work with you. The really great thing about Future Family is our application process. It only takes you about 90 seconds. We do not ding your credit score. It's a soft pull, so it is free for you. It's not going to impact that credit score. The funds can get to your clinic within a matter of a few days, which is great. And we're able to just be flexible and provide you with that additional support and care throughout your journey, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. We do offer low monthly plans up to 5 years. So with interest rates, like I said, that are all dependent on your credit profile that you do have. You can apply with a spouse, with a partner. We do have things called a friends and family plan where there is someone else. If you don't have qualifying credit, someone else on your behalf can take out that loan and they can put in an application for you, essentially. So that's also an option too. So I always suggest to put in an application, even if it's denied or if it's ineligible. We do have a team who reaches out to you who can help you get over that hump into the eligible status and work with you on the other options that you have. Another great thing is that our rates are fixed, so you don't have to worry about it fluctuating on you over the course of 5 years. You always know what to expect. You always know what you're going to pay on a month-to-month basis. So how this works, like Dana was mentioning, Genesis Fertility is going to work with you on a treatment plan that's going to be used to put your loan together. So you will bring that treatment plan to us, and we have a personal specialist who's going to talk to you about it and help you put together, this is how much your IVF is going to cost, this is how much we're going to estimate for medications, and we will put that all into a nice bow for you into that loan, and then we would take care of handling those payments. So you can choose to put in an application after you receive your treatment plan with Genesis, or you can do it beforehand. A lot of people like to put in that application, see what they're approved for prior to even going into their first visit at Genesis Fertility, just to feel that comfortability of, hey, I know I can afford this. I have my funds together. I'm going to my first visit. I don't even have to stress over about the cost of this because I know that I'm able to get a loan through Future Family. So that's a great option for you to kind of check out too. All right. So now we're going to go into a little bit about our payment plan estimates. So this is kind of a great slide for you to reference. These are ballpark ranges of what your monthly payment would be if you were approved for a 7.99 interest loan for a 5-year term. So according to what, Dana was talking about on the cost of IVF, you would be looking at, a monthly payment of about $200 to $350 a month over the course of 5 years for IVF at Genesis. So, looking at a $200 to $300 payment is a lot more digestible to have that payment for 5 years versus paying $10,000 to $16,000 out of pocket, out of your savings, on a credit card. Some of those things that I just talked about earlier, taking out of your retirement. This is much more digestible, and you can pace it out over the course of, up to 5 years. So whatever is working best for your family. What's great too is that it can also help your credit score. If you are paying these all off on time, it can help you improve it. So that is, I'll keep this slide up here just a minute so you guys can kind of write some things down if you are curious about, the total loan amount and what your payments would look like. But I do know that Genesis also has our calculator up on their website. So you guys can go view that. If you look on the Future Family page, there is a calculator there. You can take a scroller, go back and forth of what your payment or your treatment is going to cost you. And it'll tell you, based on these different options, what is your monthly payment going to look like? So I highly kind of take a gander at that and kind of just check it out and play with it and see what might work best for you. All right, so a little bit more about Future Family. We're not just any loan company out there that you can go to. We are a little bit different. So we were founded by Claire Tompkins. She went through 6 rounds of IVF herself. And so she really just tried to take a look at some of the barriers that she was encountering when going through treatment. And those biggest things were having that additional layer of support and care and someone to talk to. And then financing was another big barrier for her. So that's how Future Family was born. We are a much more client-focused company than a lot of other lenders out there. We've actually had about 40% of our staff here has gone through fertility treatment themselves, so they know what you're going through. They're more educated about it. They know how to help you and how to relate. We just know that going through this can bring out all of the emotions, the excitement, the nervousness, and it can be very stressful and isolating as well. So we wanted to create kind of a 3-prong approach to help with your fertility treatments and making them less stressful. So that way you can just solely rely on, looking out for your health and your overall journey and not having to stress about financing. So what that 3-prong approach is, one being our one bill payment. So I kind of mentioned this earlier. We're going to lump in all the applicable treatments into one monthly payment and make sure that your clinic is paid on time and in full for you. So we're going to hold your hand through this process. We're not just going to give you money and say good luck. We are trying to help you break it out into what needs to be owed, who it needs to be paid to, and making sure we're taking care of that. So all you have to worry about is your one monthly payment that can just be automatically deducted from your bank account, and you don't have to worry about it. Like I said, we are trying to understand your timeline. We're trying to go over your medications. We're trying to get you medication discounts if that's possible, if we can, with some of our partners. We're trying to do what we can to help you, and we'll be on the phone. We answer through text message, phone calls, anything you need to help you through it. Second thing that we have is having our fertility financing specialist. I think I've touched on them a little bit, but essentially they are there to go over your treatment plan and help put the loan together for you. So they are somebody you also are going to be texting with, calling with, and making sure that you're having all of your treatments covered in a loan. Our third prong, this is a huge perk of working with Future Family. And it's something that's consistently featured in all of our reviews, and that is our fertility coaches. So they are licensed registered nurses, a lot of them with over 9 years experience in the fertility industry itself. So they are there to provide that extra layer of emotional care and support for you. They're going to be your rock. They are going to be someone that you can ask questions to, walk you through injections, be a friend to lean on in tough times. They're going to be scheduling a meet and greet with you, a consultation right after you sign a loan with Future Family, and you will be assigned to one nurse. So it's not like you pick up a phone, you're calling a hotline, and it's just a random nurse who's picking up. It's someone who's dedicated to you that you can call, text, FaceTime with throughout your entire journey. You can just kind of think of them as an extension to all of the incredible nurses that are over at Genesis Fertility. We aren't going to give medical advice. We're always going to give that back to, your nurses. and your doctors over at Genesis Fertility, but we are able to explain some things that may have happened in your appointments of, hey, they use these abbreviations. I didn't know what they were talking about. And our nurses can kind of help you with that and help give you those explanations. Or I have this weird thing that's going on. Is this normal? And they can say, yes, that's normal. Or you need to talk with your doctor and your provider. So we're just there to help out in any way that we can, and somebody who you can express your emotions to, and that is exactly what they're there for, is to be that shoulder to lean on. So they have been such a huge help with everyone who has worked with Future Family. So I highly, highly recommend using that service. Okay, so as far as covered services, this one is rather easy because we can cover anything related to your cycle. So if you are working with any of our partners, we are able to disperse to them. So our fertility coaches do work, like I said, with some of our pharmacy partners, so we can cover your medications and help you get that all covered with your loan. So we can do surrogacy. Those do need to go. We can't cover escrow costs, but we can cover, the fees related to the agency. So that one's a little different, but everything else we can cover. I do have a little summary of what I talked about our pre-qualifying, our low interest rates, 3, 6, or 12-month terms. We do have the one bill payment, we have the fertility financing specialist, and we have your personal nursing coach as well. This is our contact information for both Genesis and for Future Family. So feel free to reach out to those. We also have a QR code here that takes you right to our application. And like I said, it's free, so you guys can definitely check it out and see if you qualify. And we do have somebody who will reach out to you and help you through that.